Joining us now, Congressman, 7th District, Republican, Virginia, Dr. Dave Brat. Dr. Brat, good to have you with us.
Yep, back in the district this week, giving the big talk at Virginia Union today on Constitution Day. So looking forward to that one.
Constitution Day. Well, now that should be interesting right there on Constitution Day. So you're back in the district this week. We don't normally talk about this a lot, Dave, but what are your constituents saying? I mean, what has anything changed in the last 6 months when you talk to voters in your district? What are they saying now? What's on their mind?
Yeah, it's just a huge split. I mean, on my side, they're all just Republicans. They're just saying, I can't believe what's going on. Keep up the fight. They don't give in, right? Don't give in. Keep fighting. Keep doing what you're doing. Overwhelmingly so. A lot of them, support the president. Get something done. That's the big refrain. Get something done. And then on the left, things have changed. And I say on the left, not so much my Democratic friends, but the left agenda has changed in the last week or so. About a week ago, a few of the leftist architects that arranged the identity politics back in about 2005, and folks can look these up, but some of their own guys are writing, the intellectual architects, that they failed. They got the numbers wrong. They got the ideas wrong. And so this whole Russia thing and all these, attacks on values and attacks on personal destruction, et cetera, they're collapsing. And the poll numbers are collapsing on the hard left. And so they're having a huge debate in-house right now. And so I think you're going to see them pivot way back toward jobs and the economy. And I think that may be why Chuck and Nancy are starting to show a little interest in doing deals. I think you heard Schumer say, it'll make us look more productive, because they've been worse than obstructionists. I mean, they've been just completely negative about half the country, and that's just not a winner.
No, I don't think it is either. I think you're right there, and that might be motivating some of the Democrats to make these deals. Okay, Congressman, let's get to the wall. It's our view that last week the president floated out the idea of doing a DACA deal on immigration and not including a wall in that arrangement, right? I think he threw it out there just to kind of see what the reaction would be. Now, Congressman, he's done this in the past, and I used the example. He did this with Afghanistan. He kind of threw out, well, maybe we need more troops. I talked to the generals, and then he backed off on it, and then he threw it out again, and then he pedaled it back, and he took a while, and then finally made his decision. But I think he threw it out there to see what the reaction would be. And other than myself and Rand Paul and a few other anti-war hardliners, it was not met with outrage. However, this toss-out was met with exactly the opposite, fire and fury from his base. How do you make a deal with the Democrats and do amnesty and not include the wall? And then you've got Mark Short, his legislative affairs director, saying, well, define a wall. I mean, what the hell is going on in there?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it's funny you mentioned McMaster. McMaster was on the Sunday shows yesterday, and I got a bad feeling on his language. He appears to be contradicting his boss. I mean, President Trump came back and said there's no deal fairly clearly, and he said, there's not going to be citizenship, and there's not going to be an amnesty. And he said, we'll still look for a deal. But McMaster didn't give any of those, and he's close to shaping the president's vision right now. So I got a bad feel. Maybe he's leading the charge on that. But overall, there's no way. I mean, the wall is just the minimum. I mean, our own House Speaker Paul Ryan has promised us 5 bills coming out of the House from Goodlatte's Committee on the Judiciary, which at a minimum you have to include E-Verify. And then we got to break chain migration. I said the other day, the 800,000 DACA number is just the beginning, right? Each of those people, if they reach a certain status, can have their entire extended family invited in, right? Not just mom, dad, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, everybody. And so that blows up to 3 or 4 million without even batting an eye. I said that the other day in the press. PolitiFact hasn't got me in 2 years. And, boy, they woke up on that one. They didn't like that one, so they said I'm wrong. And then the next day there's a Princeton study that says 7 million. And so those are just the minimum considerations. E-Verify, end chain migration, build a wall. And those, as Cotton said yesterday, Cotton's got some good legislation going forward on this. If you do amnesty, the problem with that is it's permanent, right? And nothing the conservatives ever want is permanent, right? So back Reagan did the amnesty, never got any of the border security. And when the left says border security, what they mean is border security until we get a president and we reel it all back down. And so that's our problem. We have to make sure we get this right. And that's the basic arrangement I see probably going forward.
Well, you absolutely nailed it. That's why the wall is so critical, because you would have to get a sledgehammer with a new president and tear it down. And why, when you talk about massive, I know the president said massive border security, nobody in his base is buying it, Congressman.
Right.
Because
right.
exactly what you said, you get a new president in, you get a new Congress in, they get rid of it. And so
right.
You get amnesty, which is permanent. You get nothing in return. Everybody sees that coming. But I tell you the other thing that you mentioned, the chain migration, which has gotten totally off the mainstream media, so that everybody understands what chain migration is. If you are legal in the United States, so let's say they get amnesty, and now you're a citizen, well, you can bring over, according to the laws now, every family member, cousins, brothers, sisters, grandma, grandpa, whatever, niece, nephew. And so this is called chain migration. And so you get one legal person comes in legally, then they can bring everybody else in, right? So then there's 700,000 of people that are in DACA now, if they become legal, that turns into 7 million. Okay, 7 million chain migration, right? And they come in, and then they have family. That's not your family. The number is perpetuitous. It's infinity. But it's 7 million right off the bat.
And that's not talking dreamers. And there's a distinction between those two. And the dreamer number is much bigger than the DACA number. And the mainstream press, like you said, never gives news on any of this.
Right.
And then yesterday on the Wall Street Journal review, Dan Henninger, in the context of talks on Catholics, it appears they're all Catholic on the show, but Dan Henninger broke one of the Big Ten. I think it's bearing false witness. It's in the Big Ten, as far as I remember, from Moses, the Ten Commandments. And he says a Freedom Caucus, he said, didn't pass health care reform, and they're now restrictionists on immigration, which is not true. 1 million people are coming in legally right now. We passed, and Paul Ryan said we made the health care bill better. But Henninger, some of these folks I don't know what their commitment is. Karl Rove did it a few days ago, and then now Henninger. And so I just want to put it out on the record so people know when you see the Wall Street Journal, their editorial board, I don't know, they're going sideways lately.
Look, they said that Obamacare repeal and replace failed because of the Freedom Caucus. The Freedom Caucus passed it.
Right, we passed it.
And it failed in the Senate, where there is no Freedom Caucus. So what the hell are they talking about?
Jago, the lead editor, the editor at the Wall Street Journal, he's the host of the show. He came back 20 minutes later and said, well, don't forget about the Senate. But he didn't correct the facts, right? I mean, it was amazing. It's amazing how the media right now is just pushing narratives instead of reporting the news.
Well, because they want open borders. And look, the Wall Street Journal is part of the Chamber of Commerce, open borders, cheap labor crowd. I mean, the business entities that are going to line up behind this and try to influence all Republicans in order to back DACA. And they don't care about these. This is the other thing. It's about the kids. They don't care about these kids. They care about cheap labor and the chain migration. And like you said, the difference, so that everybody understands the difference between DACA and Dreamers. DACA is a program that has right now 690,000 people in it. Could be 720 because 33,000 applications are being adjudicated. That's DACA. Dreamers is all the other young people that came to the country with their parents that are not in DACA. And we don't even know what that number is, right?
Right. Yeah,
how much is that?
It's in the millions.
It's in the millions.
Right, and that's just getting started. And then you got to go through H-1s and H-2s and overstaying visas. And, I mean, people. That's why the average person knows something's wrong, and no one's telling them the truth. And that was the election, right? I mean, that's from Bernie through the Midwestern states through Trump. People know so they're not being told the truth.
Right. They know they're being lied to by the open borders proponents on both sides. And so we're talking about millions of people. And, our fear with the DACA legislation is that it's not only going to be for the 720 and the 7 million, but it's going to be for everybody else that's in the country, dreamers. And then they're going to try to go forward and keep the program open. So the minute they say it's for dreamers, which means people that are here now can also apply, which we don't know how many that is, 5 million, 6, 10, no one knows. But then it's like, what stops other people from coming over, right? So
yeah, and that's the biggest issue right there. You just put your finger out. You put up that green light again. Every time we put up a green light and say we're going to legalize or give status, boom, there's a border surge the next day. And I'm not exaggerating. Once you tell people, hey, if you just got to get here, and if you wait long enough, the United States is a great, generous people, but people don't get we're generous, but we're also bankrupt, right? Our labor markets right now, individuals are entitled to $50,000 in federal welfare programs. If you got 2 kids in school, that's $26,000 for 2 kids. And if you're working under the table, that's $25,000, right? So that's a person at $100,000, and the competition is having to enter the labor market. Well, they're not going to enter the labor market. That's why everyone's leaving the labor market. And then the solution to this, the fact that our welfare system is all messed up, is to import cheap labor. I mean, it's the most absurd thing from an economics point of view, and then you get the argument from the left that it's good for the economy. I mean, it's so upside down, I can't begin to tell you.
The argument from the other side, and we're getting this also, though, from the business elements, the chamber,
right,
and other. Explain what they're saying, because they're now pushing this false narrative that's saying, actually, it's great for the economy that, these 700,000 people, they're working now, they're in DACA. If we took them away, nobody would do their jobs. The economy would suffer. GDP would go down. What are they talking about?
No, that's it. I mean, you just said it. GDP, right? Total GDP, they say, will go down. And that's true if no one else takes those jobs back. And they might even have a point there. That's what's so broken, right? Our K-12 system is teaching that business is neutral. Our higher ed system teaches that business is bad. And then we wonder why no one wants to go to work, right? There's all this leftist narratives going out there that are, quasi-Marxist about capitalism being evil and business being bad and destroyers of the environment and all this kind of stuff. And, it's the most negative view. And so then no one wants to work. And the big guys are saying, yeah, GDP will go down. Well, no one cares about GDP, right? You care about GDP per person after you pay your taxes and transfer payments. And that is going down, down, down for everybody, right? Wages are flat right now for 30 to 40 years for the average wage earner. The rich are doing fine. And that's the issue, right? People know my life's not getting better, and we're in debt up to our eyeballs, and so we're on an artificial sugar high right now, right? If you peel that back, the economy wouldn't be doing so hot at all. And so just the left is just, it's dishonesty at its best.
All right, this is the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We're with Congressman 7th District Republican Dave Brat. He'll be up for re-election in November, but that's not until all the way to 2018, a lifetime away, because we do have an election in Virginia on November 7, 2017, where I predict, my predictions are always 95%, 96 actually, but who's counting? Ed Gillespie is going to win this election, and I'm going to be there at his headquarters doing my show, laughing my tail off at about midnight. I'm going to have so much fun that night when to see the Democratic Party of Virginia go down in flames, and then they're going to have to explain their new narrative of how they didn't win when all they did was for 8 months say Trump sucks and Ivanka sucks too. That's their platform. Dave, how's that working out for them?
Yeah, well, I hope you're right, and everybody listening out there, John's got an unbelievable track record at forecasting. I mean, when you look at him versus the competition, it really is stunning to see. He's not just throwing out like his wish list. He's got a very good track record, better than the Federal Reserve's track record at predicting interest rates or economic growth. So follow the Fredericks forecasting train. He's on the money, and I hope you're right. We need it real bad.
That's right, and it all started with my prediction of the big victory in, when was it? June of 2014, we predicted
14.
that Dave was going to upset Eric Cantor. Everybody made fun of us, and so look at us now, Dave, right?
Yep.
So that's how the whole thing started. That's how I got on the map. Actually, that's how I got on CNN, because remember, we were live that night, and everybody said, why are you live?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do after like 7:05? And so CNN was scrambling. The only person that was live that night in the district was me. And so they had to get me on because there wasn't anybody else there except me.
Good for you.
I know. So that's how the whole thing started.
I know. You nailed it. I know. I know. I told the press, I told the local papers we were winning by 20% for 2 months across 10 counties. That's pretty good data. And they just said, "Oh, Dave, you're so cute. Those stories." I said, "Well, I don't lie." I said, I don't lie, and I'm just telling you. They're like, "Oh, I know. Okay, you're."
I called your campaign manager, Zach Whirl, up that day, one day ahead of time. I called him on Monday, and I'm like, "I'm way out on a limb on this thing, Zach. Just tell me the truth. What is going to happen here?"
Right.
And he said, "Oh, we're going to win by 10." I'm like, "Come on." I'm thinking it, you win by 3. No, he said, "No, I think we're going to win by 10. So, hey, that's how it all turned out. Final thing, I got one more minute. Final question here. Tax reform. We haven't seen anything. Where is it?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Have everybody go out to davebrat.com, and I've laid it all out. But unfortunately, over a week ago now in roll call, McConnell said he's probably going to push tax reform out into the next year.
Ooh.
And this was not reported. And he said, "I'm going to probably have to get 60 votes. So that means he does not have 51 Republican votes in the Senate for tax cuts, which is just so depressing, I can't tell you, right? I mean, after Obamacare, we thought that was it. That was the bottom. And we're going to get a home run here. But then you watch the Sunday shows, and yesterday it was Durbin was talking with the Missouri Republican senator, and they said, "Well, yeah, we're making more progress on fixing Obamacare in the last 2 weeks than we have in the past 8 months." And the language there is, you got to slow down to listen to it, fixing Obamacare, right? So maybe their intent all along the way, right? I think they were talking about Alexander and the Democrat senator from Washington State. And they're just laying it out there. And the same on taxes. I mean, the one thing that the swamp doesn't want to happen is for there to be big financial repercussions, right? So, if you do tax cuts with Democrats, nothing much is going to change. And the swamp can keep its spending habits and all the cronies can stay happy, right? Whereas if you do major tax reform and tax cuts, they're going to have to rearrange the deck chairs. The American people are going to get more money, and K Street's going to lose some of that money, right? They're not going to get all their deductions and loopholes. And so that's what's going on. And I just always tell it like it is. That's the latest.
And this did go unreported even by me. Now we're going to start talking about it. So Mitch McConnell says we can't, even though the Trump administration is telling me this has got to get done by Christmas, McConnell's saying not going to happen in 2017. And he says it's not going to happen because he says I can't get to 60, when in reality he doesn't need to get to 60. He's hiding behind that. The reality is he can't get to 51.
Right. And then you see the Wall Street Journal come out, and Karl Rove 4 days ago, I posted all this so everyone can go see it, and Rove comes out and attacks the Freedom Caucus for blocking tax cuts. We can't wait to get tax cuts, right? Our whole point is we want to make sure we get the Trump tax cuts, a 15 or 20% minimum on the corporate side, and then the S-corp to the individual. We want you to get your money back. And we're fighting for that. And K Street, Rove was very revealing. He came out and he talked about immediate expensing. The only ones that can take advantage of total immediate expensing are the big guys, right? They have enough earnings you can write off all your capital in year one. And that's okay. I'm for that. That'll cause some growth, but not at the expense of the small guy getting nothing. And so Rove comes out swinging, protecting K Street only, of course, and calls out the Freedom Caucus again, when we're the honest brokers trying to make sure that the forgotten man and woman back home get a few $100 a month in their pocket.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
What you have to deal with up there every day in that town is just, it's incomprehensible, ladies and gentlemen, what Dave and many others have to deal with that are really fighting for real change up there. The swamp monsters, they just come out, and the Karl Rove thing is a perfect example. I mean, he comes out on TV protecting. The only thing he's in favor of is what is going to help his buddies on K Street. Unbelievable. We're out of time. I want to thank Dave Brat for being with us. Hey, if you want more information, he's got it all there. Go to davebrat.com, davebrat.com. Congressman, thanks for being with us.